Throughout the history of comic books, one of the ways to actually garner a lot of interest, get people really involved in a story, is to culminate it with a wedding. Think about Superman and Lois Lane. Think about Reed Richards and Sue Storm. Think about Batman and Catwoman. Well, maybe not that one so much, but you know what I'm saying. Normally, you would have these long, drawn-out 3, 5, 10-year courtships, and you would get the big wedding issue. Obviously, there would be some shenanigans going on during the wedding, but it always felt like a really big thing. In fact, the first Fantastic Four wedding really was the first major Marvel crossover. Basically, every hero in the Marvel Universe showed up there. So traditionally, a comic book wedding has been a big deal. It's a way to sell comic books. And Marvel are reaching back into this well once again, but nobody actually knows why. And I'm going to get to those details, but let's talk about this major wedding first. Marvel has revealed Tony Stark, Iron Man, will be getting married to the X-Men's Emma Frost. Announced exclusively by IGN, Emma Frost and Tony Stark will be getting married in Marvel's X-Men 26 and Invincible Iron Man number 10, releasing in September of 2023. Both issues are written by Gerry Duggan. Stefano Caselli provides the artwork for X-Men, while Juan Frigeri illustrates Invincible Iron Man. And I know many of you are out there going, Wes, you encyclopedia of comic book knowledge, why is this marriage happening? It doesn't really feel like it's maybe a natural connection. It doesn't feel like a natural process through their relationship. Wes, can you explain this to me? Fucked if I know. I don't know why this is happening. The only females I know that Tony Stark has been involved with within like the last 10 years are obviously Pepper Potts. Then there was Janet Van Dyne. That was during the Dan Slott run. Christopher Can't Write Well broke them up so he could get Tony Stark and Hellcat together. Patsy Walker or whatever her name is. Obviously, Tony popped the question to her and she said no because, you know, in Christopher Can't Write Well's mind, Tony Stark is an enormous simp and he's an absolute loser. No woman would ever want to marry a really handsome billionaire philanthropist or anything like that. You know, he's just an absolute loser. And she said no. And to my knowledge, and nobody actually ever explains it in any of the articles that I've read, have Emma Frost and Tony Stark been doing anything at all recently? Barely interacting, I believe, once or twice in the pages of Invincible Iron Man, because there is a bit of a crossover with a villain named Fei Long, because Gerry Duggan's writing both of the issues, but there's no actual connection between the two. There's no chemistry, and they actually haven't been dating. Well, that makes a whole lot of sense. So why are they doing this? They're doing it because it's a cash grab, because Gerry Duggan is already out of ideas on X-Men and Iron Man, and the best one he can come up with is, well, let's have Tony Stark just marry a pretty girl in the X-Men series that he never actually speaks to. Certainly, Gerry Duggan would have a better idea than that, right? Well, let's hear from Gerry Duggan. This is his quote associated with this big announcement. Neither seems like the marrying type. Why this works and how this works and how much fun this is, whether their marriage works out or not, will need to be seen to be believed, and you'll have to buy it to find out. They certainly don't seem like they're ready to be married to anyone, let alone each other. But life can change quickly. While both are image-conscious public figures, I have to say I don't know that either would care what the public thinks. Love is love. That said, while they have little in common, they are both capitalists with a capital C, so perhaps that's a commonality that will allow their marriage to thrive. Well, there you go. The writer from Marvel Comics, the guy that actually writes Iron Man and X-Men right now, Gerry Duggan, has no idea why they're getting married and actually couldn't sell it in the press release for the big announcement of the Tony Stark Emma Frost marriage. Why wouldn't you buy this? Why wouldn't you want to buy into this? It's going to be so much fun, even though they're not dating and he's never actually asked her to marry. And it makes no sense that they would actually be married. But hey, Gerry Duggan needs to actually sell a comic book before he gets fired from Marvel Comics altogether. That is what this is all about. And probably this is to hype Hellfire Gala, which is probably going to bomb pretty spectacularly, just like the last couple of years that they've done the Hellfire Gala. There's a reason they've been scaling it down and down and down, and they're throwing this Hail Mary stupid wedding, as well as the real-life Hellfire Gala in San Diego Comic-Con, hoping to make Hellfire Gala somehow relevant in Marvel Comics and X-Men. Well, that shit ain't ever going to happen because, well, first of all, it's Gerry Duggan's idea, and the man is a soy-based life form, and nobody's really interested in the stories that he has to sell. How this guy got on X-Men and Iron Man is just fucking beyond me. X-Men is a premier A-list title. That is an A-list team, the premier superhero team in all Marvel Comics. Tony Stark Iron Man is certainly not A-list. He's more like a B or C-list character. You'll never really see a Tony Stark-led Iron Man series topping the sales charts, but he's certainly a more important character, not only in comic books, but certainly in the wider scope of Joe Normie name recognition when it comes to Marvel Comics, that he shouldn't be relegated to some shitty writer like Gerry Duggan that in any other decade would have been relegated to writing Champions if he even got a shot to write at Marvel Comics. The dude absolutely blows. Yes, he wrote some cool coded stuff, and that is absolutely it. And you wonder why Marvel Comics are absolutely screwed. I talked yesterday about how that comic book shop owner is just through with Marvel. It's for stupid stuff like this. This is an event that's a non-event because they forgot to actually, I don't know, have the characters date for 3 years and actually lead up to the big thing. Now, other publications out there have tried to explain this or come up with some idea of why these two would actually want to be married, or why would it make sense for them to even consider being married. This is what the Direct.com came up with. This isn't the first time Tony Stark has popped the question in recent years. In Christopher Cantwright-Wells' Iron Man number 20, the iconic hero popped the question to Patsy Walker's Hellcat. Sadly for him, it didn't work out, as her previous experiences with marriage led her to say no to Tony's proposal. But why pop the question again so soon? Well, Emma Frost was introduced in the current Iron Man comic run in issue number 5 when Tony came to Krakoa, the mutant safe haven, looking for more information on Fei Long, who is a mutual problem. Past that, however, she isn't very involved in the run's current story. So what in the world would lead the two to getting married? Well, it seems that the marriage likely won't be a genuine one, but rather a political event or maneuver against Fei Long and his new company, Stark Unlimited. Oh, great. So Tony Stark and Emma Frost being married is going to be like Hillary and Bill Clinton getting married. They don't actually like each other. They certainly don't love each other. It's just a marriage of convenience. It's a business arrangement that they're actually diving into. Well, that sounds really special. Why wouldn't I want to buy into that marriage? Why wouldn't I want to buy into this really fun storyline that Marvel Comics themselves couldn't even explain why it's going to happen? You know why it's happening? Because Marvel Comics can't really sell comic books. They certainly can't sell X-Men and Iron Man with Gerry Duggan writing them. So what do? You have to do a little gimmick-a-rooski to bump up the sales a little bit. Wow, there's no interest in Hellfire Gala? What can we do to actually generate interest in the event before it actually happens, even though it's already failed multiple times in the past couple of years? Well, let's just do an arranged marriage that makes no sense whatsoever, because they have to do something. They can't just sit there and wait for Gerry Duggan to write a good story, because that's never going to happen. Gerry Duggan writing a story will never generate interest in a comic book, let alone an X-Men comic or an Iron Man comic book. So they just have to go this stupid gimmick route. And yes, there'll be 5 billion covers by 5 billion comic book artists that you somewhat like, and they'll be overpriced. And yes, there are going to be about 20 morons out there that buy every single one of them because they're stupid, because they think this is somehow, it might be a key, man. And I'm sure there's like 4 or 5 channels out there right now going, this is a key, you got to get this one. It's the marriage of Tony Stark and Emma Frost that everyone knows is a sham and makes no sense whatsoever. You got to stop buying into this stuff. I know that you have, because you're a fan of the channel and you're actually looking at these stories through a critical eye. But man, there are just so many morons out there trying to sell so much snake oil, trying to sell you fool's gold left and right. And it's just sad. It's sad what they've done to Tony Stark, specifically what Christopher Cantwright-Wells did to the character not that long ago. And you would hope even Gerry Duggan is better than a Christopher Cantwright-Wells, and he would be able to do something to maybe salvage the character. But that's not happening because Gerry Duggan is a soy-based life form, just like Christopher Cantwright-Wells. If you want to see how the proposal went and how Marvel Comics once again made Tony Stark, Iron Man, look like the biggest loser in the world, you have to see this video right now. It is absolutely putrid. There's also a link in the video description.